Are live streaming from your computer, and if anybody enters in Harnett or Pittsburgh, I see Harnett. Hey, Caroline. So just remember that anytime that we are in this room and you see the blue lights overhead, we are recording this session so that anybody that couldn't make it today, they will have the opportunity to watch it on my Blackboard site. So probably the first next week I'll put it up on professional development under Blackboard, just under my organization. But just keep in mind that if you don't want it shared, please don't say it. Otherwise, ask as many questions as you want because other people may have the same questions, and it's always nice to get your input. I'm going to now hand it over to our controller / everything accounting guru.
Oh, you're so
Tammy.
kind. Thank you. I'm just so glad y'all came. Thank you for coming. I did this a year ago, and I did a little bit differently. I did GL accounts. Cliff was kind enough to be there. I don't know if anybody else from here was there at that, and we went through some things. I wanted to do this a little bit differently because I kind of drove the train with that. Amanda, you were there? Yes, okay. And we went through the GL, the chart of accounts, and what did what, and how it makes up, the 18 digits are made up. And what I'd like to do is do like a brief overview and then know what questions you all have and whoever's out in computer land has, so that I can speak directly to you. There are some people who are grant-based. I know we have some grants that are handled through here, Mother Read and some others. And then I think most of you all will be interested in the state budget. Some if you may be interested in the county budget. Erica may be interested in the county budget. So what we're going to do is kind of talk about all three funds and kind of go from there. And if you have any questions as we're going along, you're more than welcome to ask them, okay? I brought 3 different handouts. The first one's kind of, and for those of you all who were in the General Ledger class last year, you may already have this and may not want another one. But this is from the Accounting Procedures Manual that's on the North Carolina Community College website. They maintain our accounting structure for the GL codes. That good enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Just enough.
Just
Oh,
enough.
no, we do need one.
Okay, so sorry. Here you go. They maintain this based on the National Accounting Community colleges, but for colleges and universities. So this is not something that our college necessarily came up with. All of the community colleges use the same, I'm sorry, Deja, same information that we do. Now what's specific to us are the last digits, and that's what we call a unit or division or department. So I think most people know that they have a unit number or their division or department. And a lot of people just, when they're coding things, I'm sure Cliff sees this, they put those last 5 digits on there. That does help us a lot because then we know kind of where to go from there. But the other digits mean things too. And that's what this little booklet handout is for. And you're welcome to go through it at your convenience. I'm not going to go through all this. But each of the sets of digits have a different meaning. One thing that you do want to know is that there are 3 different funds that are maintained by the college, and those are state, and that state always starts with a 1, county, the code will start with a 2, and then special or what's called institutional funds, and that starts with a 0, okay? So the 3 different funds are maintained by the college, and they mean different things. Each year we get an allocation from the state that's of course based on our FTE. Each year the 3 counties give us an allocation each, and we maintain that based on the needs of their service area. The county, of course, only provides funding to support what goes on in the Lee County area, whereas Chatham and Harnett are the same. And if you're, what you want to look at with each of the 3 funds, state is for our instruction. The state is what, they give us money directly for instruction use, whether it be for Con Ed or curriculum or the support of that instruction. County funds are used to maintain the campus. So we call them plant funds or anything that has to do with the buildings or the upkeep of the buildings or the grounds, those are county funds. Everything else falls into institutional or special funds. And that would be like the SGA, or any fees that we charge, or any grants that we have. When we owned our bookstore, the bookstore operated under that. The Civic Center is kind of different. It operates, it's kind of a quasi-county institutional account, but it operates under special funds. Anything that's kind of outside the state or county that doesn't meet the definition of those two would fall over in our special funds. If we're holding funds for students, for scholarships, our Pell Grant funds, any other type of funding that would fall, just all other goes in that. Now each year the state and the county budgets are closed out. They close out to zero. If we don't spend all our money with the state, we send it back. If we don't spend all our money with the counties, luckily they let us roll over that money. We don't use it, we call those unbudgeted funds, and we're able to hold those for future use. But with the state, again, we have to close out except for our equipment. And I think everybody's kind of aware that we've been holding equipment dollars to equip the new buildings and that sort of thing. So there are some exceptions to all that. But those are basically the three funds. And most people are concerned about the state because that fluctuates based on our FTE, and that maintains most of our salaries and the other costs and the equipment that we're able to purchase. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today. I don't know if y'all wanted to, if you've got questions about special and county, I'll be glad to talk about those too, but mainly the state. And what I did, and Cliff and Erica love this, I brought in, I don't know if anybody else brought their budgets. I hope you did. If you didn't, that's fine. But I brought the budget for our department. The business office, business services, which includes purchasing and the business office. And I kind of want to go through this. If anybody, most people here, I think, have what's the mnemonic called XDPR. And if you don't, you're welcome to get it. But that's the departmental budget report. And if you know your 5 digits, your last 5 digits, you can pull a budget that looks similar to this. Now, what I did was download it into Excel to kind of break it up so that I can kind of show you the pieces. Because sometimes when we talk in budget world, we forget that everybody doesn't live in budget world every day. And we talk about salaries and fringes and other costs and equipment. Those are the 3 main categories that we look at when we're talking about budgets and how we break things up. So in this particular budget, there's no equipment. This I pulled up because we haven't purchased any and we weren't allocated any budget money for equipment. So this is only dealing with salaries and other costs, okay? What happens with the state budget every year is that the first thing we do is look at maintaining our full-time employees. So we budget whatever increases there will be and how much it will cost with fringes and everything to keep the people we have currently on the payroll. Main goal. I like that goal.
Let's keep that.
Let's keep that goal. I like that one. I like it when Carla gives me a little check at the end of the month. So that's the first thing that comes off the top. And then from there on, we use the rest of the money for our other cost expenditures. Everybody goes, what's other cost? Basically, other cost is anything other than salaries, okay? So in looking at this budget, I kind of broke it down into the 2 pieces. You've got the salaries and fringes that up at the top, in the top area. I apologize for those of y'all who, anybody's here? Is anybody here?
I know you've got some people online.
Okay.
What we can do is if you will email this to me,
Okay.
we can send it to them at Inverse.
Very good. That sounds wonderful. Okay, in looking at this budget, what you want to look at is, first of all, if you look at the codes, you see immediately that this code starts with a 1, which tells you it's a state budget. The next set of numbers is what's called a purpose, and you can go by your little account structure if you want to. But what I mainly will look at now is the number that starts with 5. That 5 is an expense code, and they're different. We share those expense codes. We may have other different things between your code and my code, but we all share the expense codes because they tell whether it's travel or it's a full-time payroll or it's a fringe, depending on the type of 5 it is. Anything that begins with a 5-1 is going to be salary and fringes, even your contractual services. For those who don't or aren't aware of what contractual services are, they're contracts paid to people who are non-employees, and we don't have a lot of those, thank goodness. Most people will be considered employees. They're instructors, teachers, unless they kind of have their own company and that's what they do. They come in and do work for us. They're really not an independent contractor. But any you see the other contracted there, that would be a contractual service. We do have a couple of contractual services that we have in our area that come in and do some work. So everything with a 5-1 is considered a salary and a fringe. Moving down, everything that begins with anything other than a 5-1 is other cost. And that could be mileage, it could be on here, you can see we have maintenance agreements, office supplies, equipment would be one of those other costs. Oh, excuse me. So that would be considered an other cost. So when we say you have an other cost budget and it has this much money, that's what we're talking about, okay? In addition to the other costs, when we're doing the budget, we do look at part-time. And what we try to do is budget the same amount of part-time as we spent in the prior year, if at all possible. That was not possible this year. So kind of across the board, there was a cut in part-time. We try not to cut from instructional budgets, okay? That's our meat and potatoes, people. So when we're looking at things, we don't want to cut from occupational, we don't want to cut from curriculum. Those are the things we need the adjuncts to make the FTE. So we're trying to protect those as much as we can. The third thing I'm going to share with you, and this is what goes to the administrators every month. Some of you probably get this. This is the state budget report. It does not have full-time or fringes on there. This is just looking at the things that we can move and that we kind of can control. We take out full-time and fringes because those are set for the year, and we try to live within those. But these things we can kind of change if need to. We may see that we're spending too much in part. Did you get one? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I didn't pass it. I'm sorry. I'm sending them this.
In looking at that, you can see it's broken down by each of the areas with each of the purpose codes. And again, we're back to the units. Some purpose codes share the same unit. For example, Brian's area, Dr. Merritt's area may be of an executive management because that's his particular budget, but he is also down here in curriculum support. I'm so sorry. Okay, so you may see a couple of the units that overlap between purpose codes, but most of them do not. Everybody, for the most part, has distinctive unit codes. But this is what goes out to them so that they can kind of watch and maintain what they have spent, what they've encumbered. Everybody familiar with what encumbered means? Encumbered means we issue a PO for it, and it's now encumbered in the system. We've set aside that money for an expense that's going to happen. We haven't paid for it yet, but we're going to pay for it. So that's what an encumbrance is. So you're looking to, typically at the unencumbered balance. You see a couple of negatives on here, which, September's a little scary. So we'll have to make some adjustments there. Try not to have many of those, especially in September. But this was the budget that was agreed upon by the President's Council and that we went forward with. These were the things that we could make moves on. We could move from one area to other. The other things were pretty much set in stone, being fringes and salaries. So that's what goes out to them to let them know where they are at any given time at the end of the month. Amanda's budget's on here. She is doing great. Let's see, how much have you spent, Amanda?
I think I have spent.
Oh my gosh, you're doing great. You have spent 4.8% of your budget.
$240 and
Woohoo!
I'm gonna need to.
We'll chat.
There might be some deals being made across the college. But I think that in general, you know, when things get a little bit more resource constrained, that's the phrase I've been told to use, we pay a little bit more attention to what we have and what we don't have and making sure things are coded correctly. And we want to make sure in our area that we're coding things correctly, because if it comes out of the wrong budget, then we need to fix that. There are rules that govern each budget. So, I know, for example, literacy can't be moved. Literacy is literacy. It has to stay in that budget. You might want to share with others, but you can't. They can share with you now, but you can't share with them. So there are some constraints there.
I'm
But
not sure if we can.
y'all can try. I'm sure it'll be fine. So that's basically the information that goes out every month of where we are with the state budget. Do you all have any questions? What can I help you understand about your budget? What confuses you? What just exasperates you? Because you all are the users. The reports that we do are no good if you all aren't able to understand them and they don't provide you the information you need. Who has questions?
When I want like supplies,
Mhm.
like office supplies, whether it's the supply store or we'll say Rubbermaid containers for exams, when I get my budget like this, that is the money I can use for those types of work.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's
That
what I'm
is.
saying.
Your other costs, your supplies, any software you need,
Okay,
your mileage, any trips you want to take, that's your other cost budget
altogether.
altogether. Yes, ma'am. And you can move those within, you know, you may see it, if you were to print it out in your departmental budget report, it may have all been posted in supplies, but you won't use it all in travel. Not a problem. When you make that travel expense and it gets paid, I'll move it down to travel.
So we don't need to contact you to do the transfer, you take care of it.
I take care of it. As long as it's within the same unit, it's your budget,
So as long as it's 41099 or whatever your number is, you take care of it, match.
exactly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So those things are kind of interchangeable. We can move them within the lines.
So, because I don't want, my friend here to have a heart attack. This is that we're at 94.72% of that we've spent that much of our budget. A lot of that is encumbered, things are encumbered.
Yes,
So-
yes.
When I first saw this, when we got this by email, I just about fell out of the chair, and I was just sitting there waiting for Brian to call me, and he didn't call me. And why didn't he call me? But then I talked to Tamara, and she got it all straight.
You do encumber a lot, and that's good, because you know where you're going to spend your money for the rest of the year, and a lot of yours is in transportation. Now, another good thing that I'll share with you, and won't have any of it, you have a grant that's going to help reimburse some of those transportation expenses, your DOT grant. So as those funds are given to us, they'll go back in these lines and offset that.
Oh, great.
Yes.
And so I have one other question about encumbrances. So with my full-time folks, did we set that for the whole year? Like, and I had some people that didn't start like until the middle of August. But so,
Typically what I do with HR, or if you had a position vacancy, I left that person in there. Let me give you an example. Daniel Lovitz left us, but we knew we were going to fill that position, so I left it in there. I didn't know who it would be, but I imagined that it would be about the same salary scale, so I left him in there when we did the budget and budgeted it just as if he was going to be with us for the entire year.
okay. So, and when people are not with us for the entire year and we don't spend quite that much that was encumbered, does that come back into our budget?
For you, it does.
Okay.
For you, it does. I will not say that that's necessarily true of the rest of because yours is so, your money is what's called categorical, and it cannot be spent other places. Many times, and people don't realize this, we had been able to budget, but we're kind of a little tight right now. budget for what's called payouts. And you remember, a lot of people have the good bonus time. It's like 200 hours. Plus, when someone leaves, I'm talking about. So when someone retires, they can be paid out for a possibility of 240 vacation hours, plus they've got that 200 hours bonus, plus any longevity that they've earned up to that point that the college has to pay out. So usually it's not a situation of where there's money left, especially if we hire somebody fairly soon after that person leaves, it's that we've actually kind of overspent because of that payout. We have a lot of typically retirements in December and in May, and we'll see that happening. If someone goes to another college or another state agency and they take their time, we love that. Take your time with you. It is good. We don't have to pay them out for it, but some of them would like half and half, and then that money comes out of that same budget. So again, with you, because your money is so specific, it's almost like, it very much is like a grant. It would stay within your area, not necessarily with the rest of the departments. If someone were to leave in, say, a general institution, we may have a little money there. We may use it somewhere else where we need to plug a payout or something like that. That's a good question though, because I've had to ask, well, okay, I've lost a full-time person and I didn't hire him for 2 months. Yeah, but we paid him out 3 months worth of payout. So it really doesn't, you've got those little quirky things that happen throughout the year that mess up the budget. It's not a perfect world, sadly.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm used to getting the monthly fee balance. You
Yes.
started that, I think, last year or the year before. Will we start getting a monthly?
Yes, you should have gotten one this past month. If you did
I
not.
did get it, but I was just
Good,
wondering,
okay.
moving forward, that's gonna be a regular thing.
Yes, we'll do that every month.
That was really nice to just know that
No.
it's gonna come in and I can see it. Remind myself to go in and look at mine, but to still see where I'm at.
And a lot of this, what we're talking about are student fees. You don't mind me using you as an example.
Yeah.
Right now, poor Amanda's in the hole big time.
By a lot.
Because she has to purchase what comes out of her fees up front. And at the time that she made that purchase, Pell Grant had not paid, the deferred payment had not paid, and those fees go back in after tuition does. So what happens is you may not see the revenues from those fees maybe until November, December.
That's what happened
just
last year.
because students,
And it's scary.
it's
I mean,
scary, but you're good.
I
You're
go
good.
in quite a bit, but as long as on June 30,
Yes.
we are
Yes.
above zero,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm okay.
And that's now a new state requirement. There was a school, I'm not sure which one, so I won't say, that had some problems with fees and negative fees and things like that. So now they've made a state requirement that all institutional fund balances, mainly fees, have to be positive at the end of the year. So can't spend more than we got.
By the spring, I'm good.
And by the spring, you are doing great. Again, like your encumbrances, it looks like you've spent it all, but you've just planned for the year, and that's good. And Blackboard sadly costs a lot. We like Blackboard.
We do love
Yes.
I know that it's XDBR for these.
It's XDBR for county and state, XIFR, and I'll be glad to send y'all the instructions for either of those. XIFR, institutional, for special funds, institutional funds, if you want to look up a particular fund balance
So I'm institutional, right,
for
professional development.
your vending funds are, but your professional development that's in state is not. That would be XDBR. Your 71009 funds,
Yeah.
XDBR.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Tamara, can you elaborate on that? So I'm used to the 71009.
Right.
I feel like I put that on everything.
Those are your state funds, and that's what you use for travel, any of your other costs that are a speaker coming in perhaps to do a lecture, things like that. Your professional development funds that are in vending are used for food and other things that
PDA.
cannot be paid out of state.
That's it, okay. So that's when Chef Ham
Yes,
caters
ma'am.
That's where we pay that.
Giveaways that you do for Professional Development Day, any little
Knickknacks.
knickknacks and things like that, the state will not pay for. Those have to come out of vending funds, yes, ma'am.
And then, so 71009 is my state.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
what's the special for the vending?
Most codes in special do not have a unit. They have a purpose, their own separate purpose. So yours is 01125. 01125. That's the vending code. Don't everybody use the vending code.
I'm gonna write that down.
No,
Don't use the vending
because I
code.
will catch it. I've caught people before, red-handed. I have.
It's like a,
Because let me tell you something, I'm cheap in my personal life, and I'm even more cheap when it comes to, because we only have a very little pot.
It is. As we have fewer on-campus students, just by virtue of having so many high school students, people are not using the vending machine. That or they're eating more healthy than I am. So, encourage people to use the vending machines, because that's where that money comes from. It truly is vending money that we can use for, public relations, but a lot does have to come out of that because that's the only place we can pay for food and stuff from. So.
Not that I've had the issue, but if I go and look and I'm not sure from month to month why the number, it doesn't balance with what I thought I spent
On your fees,
on my fees or something, would I reach out to you to see what the actual
Yes.
individual
I can
items
get
were?
you some detail.
Okay.
Sadly enough, we don't have right now a system that will allow that. I'm hoping with,
Enterprise,
self-service,
is it Enterprise?
I don't know if that's what's, but there will be some more detail that you all can drill down and actually see, oh, this has been encumbered, this has been spent in real time as things happen.
So I haven't missed a screen where that shows you. Okay. I thought
Sadly,
so.
no.
Usually I
It
do
gives the
know,
big
but I've always
picture.
wondered if I was missing something.
No. Just like you were asking the other day about reports, we can run some informed reports that give those specifics. And if you're needing that, I'll be happy to get that for you and set you up on a monthly basis to get those.
I would love to get this, but I'll send you an email. I won't expect you to remember that, but what are they called?
Just informal reports.
Informal.
Yes, ma'am. And they can pull from DataTail and show you the very specific things that you spend. What it'll show you is, like the voucher, and the vendor that you paid and the amount. If it was travel, and it'll break it down by code, so you can see the actual code. So you kind of have to know what the codes are to know, okay, why did we pay Vicki $50? Oh, that's a registration fee that she had to go to a conference. So, you kind of have to know the codes that go along with it to know, what you spent. Cliff, it's your turn for a question.
Well, mine's probably limited, but with personnel moving around from department to department, and we just trying to
We
keep
don't
up
do
with
that.
who moves to what unit, what's the best way for me to get an updated, unit number
For a person.
for personnel, and how often do you all do that? Because I know, like, we have people moving intra-year and that type of thing, so I don't know. I do have to keep up with that a lot.
I'm sure.
There's certain things that I got that I do on my own, so if somebody moves from one week to the next, and I have it updated, it's gonna, when I order something for them or reorder something, so it's actually gonna go the wrong.
Exactly. I know Daniel Burnt moved from admissions to First in the World.
Right.
Okay.
So what's the best way for me to just get an update, and how often do you all update it?
It would be updated monthly to
It
the
is
payroll.
updated, okay.
So the best way I can think is for either Carla or me to run you a list. And what we can do is run you the payroll GL number that they're paid from.
Okay, that's where I can.
Gotcha.
I can
And then
sign
you
my
can-
purchase and expense codes.
And again, we can set you up an automated report for every month.
Yeah, that would be great if I could do
You just need to remind me. Because I will have forgotten it in about 5 minutes. And anybody else who needs that would be, I know you're using a lot for the supply store.
Well, that was what I was gonna say, is that the list I've got out there right now is probably more than a year old.
Right.
So we've got new hires that are on there, and
Right.
the new, they don't necessarily always have their GL code memorized, so I need to make sure that we're charging that back to the right departments at the end of the month, so that would be something.
Carla will have changed it in the system by the 15th, by the time she pays payroll.
Okay.
So probably sometime after the 15th would be a good time for us to get you the list. And if you'll shoot me an email, I'll send you that list.
That helps us.
Vicki, you got any questions?
No, I'm just here to listen to her.
What's your skill code?
For, I work with, the payroll part, so mine is, well, each department, like medical,
That's
staff
right,
development,
occupational.
occupational, staff supporting, so I know most
She
of
knows
them.
all of them. She knows all of them.
Good for you.
But they're all, she's got some special fund ones, she's
Yeah.
got some state fund ones, so community service ones. So she's got lots of them. But now she's,
People out there don't necessarily know which one to use all the time.
Oh,
Don't call any names, so let's not call any names, 'cause that would be
we
unfair.
should protect the innocent.
Yeah,
Yes.
But yes, if you don't know a code, if you'll contact somebody, we'll help you with a code. Generally speaking, if you can tell us a little bit about what you're trying to pay or who you're trying to pay, we can direct you down the right path. Because we do want it to be coded correctly. To have to fix them is not fun, so.
I was gonna say, just for fun, autocomplete kind of a bad thing on some people's e-forms, because they'll go in and they'll have a code that they used prior, and they'll just use it again, and maybe for something completely different, so. That's when it's not quite so fun, right?
I do tell people, if, on a limited basis, if they don't know the GL code, if they'll route their e-form to me, I'll be glad to code it and then send it on the purchase.
Right.
We'd rather go that route than the backwards route. Just put all zeros in there and somebody will code it. So what else? Yes, Mary.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go, Mary. Mary's supposed to give
I'm
me
on
a topic.
5100, 51,000, on my code. Got a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of you may know, but in the Career Center, there was a position, full-time position that we now have vacant. I presented to my direct report.
Now,
which
can't
was-
hire anybody, I'm sorry.
Which is Vice President Hoyle. And I gave him some options of ways that maybe we could save money
Right,
and not have to spend more money.
right.
Or
Awesome.
maybe that same amount of money to obtain a new hire for that role. So we're still in the process of deciding maybe which direction we may want to travel in order to save the college some money.
We love you. You are our hero, Mary.
We have a lot of very competent and capable work study students that could possibly be used. Convert the full-time position maybe back into a part-time position. If that became available, save that part of the salary. Now that money, let's say that position itself kind of goes away, which I think would be okay. To tell you the truth, I do. As long as we have something to fill in that gap of space there. What would happen to that additional money? Am I in one of those departments where the money would be dispersed, possibly somewhere else? or
Possibly somewhere else,
which
yes, ma'am, to
department?
where we made a payout. Now, when did this person leave? If you don't mind.
June 26th.
Okay. So it could have been a position that we fully budgeted for. I'm sure we probably did because we thought we'd be retiring. That money would be dispersed somewhere else, maybe to a part-time position within. I know you all have a lot of part-time, and we had to cut some part-time from all the areas. So that may buy some more part-time hours in your division for someone else. I will say, looking at how the fringes have grown in the past few years, we pay approximately $6,000 in medical insurance for every full-time person, and the retirement rate has gone up to 18.86%, which is so hard to believe. So for every person we pay, 18.86% of their salary goes to the retirement system, to keep the retirement system afloat. And that may not sound like, but when then you add FICA and all that, you're paying a lot of fringes. And plus that retirement, it used to be really, I can remember when it was like, 7, 8%.
I was thinking 6.
Well, that's what the
Going up to
employee
8.
pays.
Oh, okay.
That's what
Okay,
the
that's what we
employee is
pay.
set, is 6%. But what the employer pays is now 18.86. So, and that is, it was 17.16 last year. So you can see how it's going up in big chunks. So anytime you can help with, by having a part-time person that we're not having to pay for any benefits on, that's very helpful. I mean, we have to pay FICA, but we wouldn't be paying for their medical and retirement. You're helping the overall general institution. That's the best way I can probably put it, but, and that's very much appreciated. But depending on circumstances that happen, people leaving, things like that, that money may go somewhere else that is needed. I know you, particularly in your division, both at the Harnett campus and at the Chatham campus, have several part-time people. So the money saved there may go toward providing more hours. We used to not be so resource constrained, and some of the issues that we're facing now, we didn't, I mean, we're very blessed, let me just put it that way. But we're having to look now to make sure we're traveling to places we need to travel to. We're doing the things, I mean, which we should all do all the time as good stewards of state funds. But we really need to make sure that the things we do, we have to do for the instructional needs in college. We've got to put that first, and not some of the little extras that we've perhaps been able to do in the past.
Tamara, could you speak to, so I don't know how many of you, but, you know, I guess me just listening to the news and hearing that the budgets were going to be cut and the state budget and how much of that, I didn't know, I've never really understood here at CCCC, what implications did we have from all of that, if any?
Well, in my experience, what happens is, again, we're talking about things being cyclical. Anytime the economy is good, people are in jobs, they're not going to school.
Right.
So our on-campus enrollment typically drops at that point. Now, we've been very blessed with the fact that we've got an awesome setup for high school students, and we're bringing in a lot of high school students, and they're earning, you know, maybe taking 1 or 2 classes. Well, we're paid based on what's called full-time equivalent, and that would be what is equal to, and I can be glad to share all the calculations with y'all, their tiers and everything depending on what program they're in. But a full-time student on campus taking a full load is different than a high school student maybe taking 1 class. Our head count may be the same that it was 5-6 years ago, but they're not taking as many classes.
Right.
Therefore, our FTE is dropping, exactly.
They also don't pay for their books.
The counties pay for their books,
Right.
we don't.
So is that money that's being lost on our end, or does it not matter who's paying?
For the books, it does not.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it matters to the counties because they were not expecting the tremendous growth in this program, but they're actually paying for it. So,
Okay. So
yeah.
we don't have a hand in that. Okay. So we didn't take a hit there.
We just get commissions from Follett, thank you, that
Okay,
help our
that's
little folks. So no, that's not ours. But yes, and we've had some grant funded positions, like when we started the CC Works program. The CCW advisors were all fully funded through grants and the foundation. You know, we're in the 5th year of that. We're in the 5th year of that now, and they're coming off of grants, which they're self-sustaining because they've got the head count in the high schools to sustain their positions,
Okay.
but also their high school enrollment is sustaining the rest of the college too. So you've got to look at, I mean, there are a number of factors. We're not the only ones
No.
who have lower FTE. A lot of the colleges have had decreasing FTE. They're all dealing with the same issues. But I think you have to, sadly enough, we get the money sometimes a couple of years after we've had the high enrollment FTE, and then it starts declining. And then as the economy goes, hopefully not back in the tank, I hope not nearly like 2008. Cliff is laughing, he's like, but then we have good enrollment and our FTE goes up. So I don't think that really answered your question, and I apologize for that. It's the state, while the state budget is important, it's how they calculate the FTE that's oh so much more important. And that they can change that. Now it's the best of better of 2 years. And there's a state budget report y'all are welcome to look at to see how it's calculated for occupational courses, and which they did great this past year. Occupational did great, but we were down a little bit in curriculum. So we're learning to, you know, you hire people like the CCW advisors to get these programs running, and you have grants, but then you've got to be able to sustain that, and that's what we're trying to do.
So we're absorbing that salary cost
Exactly.
from the grant into just your state.
Into the state budget, that's exactly
Okay.
right. And we have currently 10 CCW advisors. Now, some of them are now teaching classes and being paid out instructional. They may be teaching classes at the high schools. So they've tried to, you know, like Mary was saying, what's beneficial for the college, they're now doing instruction and the advising part, not just typically 100% CCW work with the high school students. But that kind of causes some constraints.
I'm sure. Do we, you know, you hear, and I guess, I maybe don't live here, but, you know, I heard so much about kind of being more fiscally responsible.
And I think we are. As a
And-
college, we are.
But I'm thinking, what more could we do? Because I agree with you, I think that we, honestly, I don't see anyone that I know of going out and just I mean, you know, I came from corporate, so I was used to seeing big marketing budgets, and I don't see that here. So what other ideas do you have about us being more responsible?
Well, the only thing we can do at this point is just get our FTE up, get our enrollment up, work on that piece, because that's what drives the other. So if we can just get enrollment, and that's why, you know, bringing new programs like the sonography program, see, that's going to have a great hit.
Yes.
But it's an expensive program. I mean, you've got a lot of expensive equipment to buy. They've had some grants to help with that, which is awesome. I mean, sometimes it takes a little bit to get these things built up.
Okay.
Might be a roundabout way of answering that
Well,
question.
that helps. That does help.
Okay. Any other budget questions? Or non-budget questions? Are there reports that you're getting at the end of the month that you'd like to be different or see different information other than the ones we talked about?
I think what we're getting is great, and I'd like to continue getting those, but I would love a monthly report and the informal reports
Okay.
that breaks it down into, she spent $500 on a registration fee.
Now, one thing, about some of the budget reports that I don't particularly like, when we're looking at payroll information, we actually have to get that from the payroll side, and it won't come from the financial side. It'll just say payroll, $500. So if you have specific payroll needs that you have, like who got paid out of this code? I didn't remember anybody. We've got to go over to the payroll side, and we can pull those reports for you too, and let you know who got paid, particular months, that sort of thing. Anything else? Erica, you got any questions? We have no money. Did you see that? We have no money. Tell Mike to quit spending our money.
You know, I looked at the allocated amount for Polk College on this, and what it been spent, and it looks like it's right on target.
I mean, it's pretty cool. It's nice to see that. Some people go over. We try not to have that. But most people, seriously, and even last year, people did a really, really good job of staying within their budget. Just like at home, you have a limited amount and you have to stay within it. So you'd like to spend more, but that'll catch up with you. Is anybody outside in computer land?
Caroline, do you have any questions? Caroline, can you hear us? She can't hear us.
Caroline, are you asleep?
Amanda.
It's muted.
Let me see. I've been responding to her.
Okay.
So we're talking. How y'all doing?
Everybody good? Well, we can make it red now.
So wave bye.
Bye.
Everyone.